Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather next week, same days for today's video. This will take us to around the 29th of the month, right? So coming towards the end of March and heading into the Easter period as well. So we started the Easter updates last night. There's sort of a suggestion that we might have a bit of a cold spell just before Easter from the north. And there may be something a little bit less cold over Easter. Sort of a very long way off, though. And this morning, the GFS is kind of hinting at the chance of some really quite cold weather over the Easter weekend. So I'll talk you through that in a moment. But it could well be that this delayed spring continues. And we have more weather impacts from cold conditions over Easter. So hang around and you'll see more about that in today's video. Going to start off though by showing you some snow pics that have been shared with us over the past a day or so. So there are several ways that you can have your pictures featured in the videos if you would like to do so. You can share them on our Facebook and Twitter social media accounts. You can post them to the comment box at GazWeathers, or you can email them to gazweathers@gmail.com. And we're always happy to feature your pictures in the videos. Of course, we can't feature everybody's pictures because there is so many sent to us these days. I always feel quite bad about it, but we just haven't got time to feature everybody's pictures. So these are just a random selection, if you like. And big thank you to everybody for sending those pictures through as always. I'll try and do a few more tomorrow. We're going to begin by having a look at Mark Canish in the Wirral. A little bit of snow there yesterday morning up in the Liverpool area. This is from Steve in Dublin. So that's, I think that must be Steve's cat. In the snow in Dublin yesterday. This one is Stephen Howe from Exeter. Pretty deep snow there. I've got some more pictures from Exeter to show you later. This one is from Nick Davey in Southampton. Nick shared this with us on Facebook. Over to Twitter, and we can see David Murden and Matty's Osmington Mills Holiday Park in Dorset. Pretty deep snow there. This one, not a snow picture. This one is from Andrew Atterwell in Bungay in Suffolk. Well, just a stunning picture. I think it's sunrise this morning in Bungay. Andrew often tweet some really almost professional standard pictures on Twitter, so do check out Andrew Atterwell and you'll see some stunning pictures from Bungay in Suffolk. This one is with your friend James Ackrill from Lincolnshire. This is James' back garden yesterday. Really deep snow cover there, and I think James got hit pretty bad on Saturday night from some very deep snow indeed. This is another one from Exeter. This is Darren in Exeter. This is from this morning. So Darren there's more snow overnight, last night to this morning. So I think Darren is now, was this morning, measuring 22 centimetres of snow from all the various snowfalls that have occurred over the past couple of days. Darren posted these pics into the comment box at GazWeathers. That's Darren's dog down in Exeter in the snow. Not sure what Darren's dog is making of the snow, but he looks pretty happy, or she looks pretty happy. So I think Darren's dog not too concerned about the snow. This is Richard Trout from Redcar. His gnome a little bit buried in the snow up in Redcar. This one is Leo from Nottingham. Again, pretty extensive snow cover there yesterday. David Jackson from Scunthorpe. Dave's been waiting for a decent covering of snow all winter, I think. And I think David did get it over this weekend. And this one is another Gavin, not me. It's Gavin from Wales. Looks like the spring flowers are a little bit buried and shook up there over in Wales in the snow. And then this one is from Neil in the Black Country. Again, pretty deep snow there in Neil's garden. That's Toby. That picture is from Toby in the Isle of Wight. So even down on the south coast, pretty extensive snow there yesterday. So big thanks to everybody for sending their pictures through to us. Remember, you can email them to gavsovids@gmail.com. You can post them to the comment box at gavsovids, or you can share them with us on our Twitter and Facebook handles, and we're always happy to feature the pictures in the videos when we get the chance. So we'll go on and have a look at weather next week to 10 days next. So these are 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts from the Penn State University website for the 7 to 10 day time frame. We've got the ECMWF here on the top, and the GFS is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 80 miles feet is an area in the absolute high pressure and low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream running above. Red extrapolates high pressure and blue to low pressure. These are the mean flow charts for the 7 to 10 day time frame, so this will take us up towards the Easter period. ECMWF is looking quite nice this morning. We've got an area of above average height sitting just to our west southwest, with below average heights in the central part of the Atlantic, and the flow of the jet stream is doing something rather like that. Now, if you're waiting for spring, if you're waiting to get rid of this cold weather, then the ECMWF is a pretty decent run in its extended range this morning. It does bring something that looks quite close to spring to us heading up towards Easter. However, there's a big difference between the ECM and the GFS this morning. So this is the GFS, and you'll see that the area of above average heights, the high pressure, is much further out into the middle of the Atlantic with this model, and it's also going up to our north, which leaves us under this trough to the east and southeast of us, and therefore the wind is coming from much more of a northerly type direction, far colder type situation. And as I say, the GFS this morning is very much hinting that we could have more cold weather, not from the east, but this time potentially from the north as we go into the Easter period, a classic sort of spring northerly potentially setting up for Easter. GFS ensembles looking like this. Looking at Bedford today, somebody's asked me to have a look at the ensembles for Bedford. So the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Bedford. Starting off very cold, of course, with the upper air temperatures right now. Very gradually through the next few days, we're going to see the temperatures starting to lift up. So by the time you get through to the end of the week and the weekend, we're actually going a little bit milder than average. And then we head off into the final days of March and early April, so up to the Easter period. Easter Sunday, of course, is April the 1st this year. And very close to the 30-year temperature average for a while. But as we're getting closer to Easter, this period just here, it's in the extended range, so that's the saving grace about it if you don't like cold weather in the spring. But in the extended range around the Easter period, actually it looks like the model, or the GFS ensembles, are trending colder. So the white line here is the ensemble mean. That's taking each individual line of spaghetti, if you like, and grouping them together into a mean line. And that's going underneath the red line, you'll notice, as we get through towards the Easter period, that period just there. We are going, if that's right, colder than average around the Easter period. And there are some very cold ensemble members as well in this period, including the latest operational run of the GFS, which I'll show you in a moment. That's this thick green line just here. But it's not without support. I mean, it is one of the coldest members of the ensemble for this period, but it certainly isn't without support. And there are several ensemble members, or several members of the GFS ensembles, that do look really quite cold for this Easter period. As far as precipitation is concerned, a fair amount of dry weather coming up through the rest of this week, but through the weekend and into next week, it looks like it's turning more unsettled. So rather cool and unsettled, really, as we're going into the final stages of the month. These are how the surface temperatures are looking for Bedford. So starting off really cold. This is 0 degrees freezing just here. This is +10 just there. That's -10 down there. And we've got +20 up here. And it's not inconceivable by now that we are starting to get temperatures to 20 degrees Celsius. That can certainly happen by the end of March and the start of April. This is -20 down here. Would be quite unusual to get -20 in Bedford in March. So we're not going to get to 20 degrees, however. It's going to be quite a while before we get there. We are going to see the temperatures lifting up, however, over the next few days. So starting from this very, very low level, we see the temperature rising up towards around 10 degrees by the end of the week, and then sticking at that level around just a little bit under 10 degrees Celsius through into next week, before maybe signs of a bit of a fall away in the temperature, possibly flatlining, but I think overall maybe signs of a bit of a drop in the temperature, if anything, for the final stages of March and into early April. Temperature anomalies for the next week are coming out colder than average. This is taking into account the very cold conditions we're starting off with, so expect to see these temperature anomalies moderating through the coming week. But for now, Monday the 19th to Tuesday 27th of March, coming out significantly colder than average for the UK and for Ireland and for virtually all parts of Europe as well. So another really cold week compared to average coming up. Precipitation anomalies looking like that. Still rather wet through southern Europe, so you'll see where the jet stream continues to be going into Spain, Portugal, through the Med, and then on in towards Italy, over the Adriatic and into the southeast of Europe. That's where low pressure systems are pushing through to. Through central and northern Europe, it remains really quite dry. So the coming week, the 19th, 27th of March, the precipitation anomaly for central and northern Europe coming out drier than average. This is how the midnight run of the GFS was looking then. So on Friday, low pressure is heading in from off the Atlantic. That's bringing more rain to the west of the country. That rain struggles to move across the country next weekend. It did look a day or so ago as though the end of week and weekend could be really quite wet. Not so much the case now, and the reason for that is the abnormality of the jet stream. The jet stream is doing something like that, trying to bring the low pressure in from off the Atlantic, but instead of taking its normal route, which would be in that direction, actually what the jet stream is going to be doing at the weekend is something rather like that, dipping away to the south, taking the low pressure systems down into Spain, Portugal, the Med, Italy, that sort of area. And it means that, particularly for eastern parts of British Isles, probably not overly unsettled. Although I think there will be more showers or maybe a few longer spells of rain coming up by the time we get through to the weekend. But overall, it's the jet stream that does look rather abnormal as we go through the weekend. As we go through to next week, so it all goes rather slack, rather flabby. These are quite strange looking charts through the early part of next week. And then we bring this deeper area of low pressure through by the middle of next week, starting to run up towards east, of course. This is Wednesday, the 28th of March, bringing that low pressure through. And then Thursday, the 29th, as that low pressure moves across the country into the North Sea, it starts to open the door to those northerly winds, and that takes us into the Easter period, where it looks like it's turning increasingly cold and unsettled. That's Saturday the 31st of March, for example. We've gone beyond day 10 now, so we're into the unreliable time frame of the model, but that does look very cold and unsettled. You would expect snow, I would have thought, for particularly northern parts of the country, with that strong and cold northerly wind. And that's how Easter Sunday is looking, or was looking, on the midnight run of the GFS. Still cold with those northerly winds. That is not really what you want to be seeing on the 1st of April if you're a grower or a farmer. That's quite alarming, because we're already delaying the growing season now, and it looks like this delay could continue as we go through even into the start of April. This is the 6 o'clock run of the GFS. This is the very latest run, with, again, low pressure trying to come in from off the Atlantic at the end of the week. And that low pressure sort of hanging around quite flabbily across the country over the weekend. It will be producing showers, probably not overly wet, but certainly showers, maybe a few longer spells of rain over the weekend. Into next week. Now, this looks a little bit better just for a time through the early and middle part of next week. It looks like we're dragging up some slightly milder air there from the central part of the Atlantic. So maybe a little bit of a taste of spring for the south as we run up towards day 10. But look at this, by day 10, which is Thursday the 29th of March, again we're starting to move that high pressure back away into the central Atlantic, which is starting to turn the winds into the north once again. So as we get to Good Friday, which is Friday the 30th of March, there we go, we're back into a cold northerly wind. This is not an easterly beast from the east type situation, but it's still cold. It would be certainly producing snow showers that for northern parts of the country, and probably even more impactfully for growers, some quite damaging night frost. And then this cold northerly continues as we move into the Easter weekend. So both the midnight and 6 o'clock runs of the GFS are trying to produce quite a cold looking spell of weather just around the Easter period. As I've always say in the videos, it's more likely to snow on Easter Sunday than it is on Christmas Day. So is this going to be another one of those situations where we have a cold and wintry Easter? It's too far away to say that. And there is a saving grace from the ECMWF if you don't want cold weather over Easter. So this is how the ECM is looking this morning, with low pressure again coming in from the Atlantic at the end of the week and into the weekend, sticking around the country for a time through the early part of next week. But as we go through next week, we get a build of pressure from the Azores high, and that takes us to day 10, which is Thursday the 29th of March, with that high pressure ridging up across the country. There's the upper air temperatures. They're looking very pleasant. That will probably be lifting temperatures up into the mid-teens Celsius there with the ECMWF by day 10. Now, would that high pressure stay there, or would it start to pull back into the Atlantic? So would it just stick around here as we go over Easter, or would it pull back into the Atlantic and maybe go up there and turn the winds into the north? It's very inconclusive where that will go from that period. So it is possible that will be setting up quite a nice, fairly warmish Easter weekend. But you also wouldn't rule out the chance that it might do something like the GFS is trying to do, because there is quite a bit of high pressure out here in the sort of northwestern part of the Atlantic. The heights are fairly high in that region. It is possible this high pressure would ridge to that sort of area of above average heights around the northwestern Atlantic. If it did, that would turn the wind into the north. So even though the ECM does bring us a little bit of spring by day 10, I think it's inconclusive whether that would last all that long from that pattern, to be honest. And overall, I've got a feeling we may be shaping up for some quite cold northerly winds this Easter. It's a long way off. It's not definitive, but I think we have to be watching out for it purely because of the way this spring has gone so far. It's been a very delayed spring so far. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if we did get another shot of cold northerlies sometime around Easter. So not really the news most of you want here, but I think that may be what we've got to look out for. In the more immediate time frame, however, we are coming out of this latest mini beast from the east, so the worst of that is over. It will be staying cold for the next day or so, but gradually through this week the temperature will start to lift up, and by the time you get through to the weekend it's more unsettled again, but temperatures, well, probably still a bit below average, but nowhere near as cold as they have been over the weekend, and they are right now. Having said that, there's still quite a lot of snow around, and quite a lot of ice out there as well. So if you're off out and about through the course of this afternoon, or indeed tonight when it's probably going to freeze, certainly in the early part of the night, do take care, because there's a lot of ice and lying snow left on untreated roads and pavements. But gradually, over this week, the worst of the easterly is over, but I think we've got to be watching out for northerlies for Easter. And we'll be discussing that more in the videos over the next few days, of course. Right, that's all for now. Thanks for watching.